Hey, gorgeous. This is Sean. I was sitting the other day and I was talking with Rodrigo Paiva, who's my videographer. He does all the wonderful videos that you see on Instagram and YouTube and my website. And we're talking about content and, well, the ridiculous content on Instagram these days. And we realized that, we have a lot of stuff on Nomad as an experience and my design work, but there's really not a lot of work. There's not a lot of videos on like my creative process with my artwork. So we decided that we're going to do this new segment, and it's going to be broken into two formats. One's going to be very digestible, creative kibble that you can gobble down on Instagram. And then the other one is going to be like a longer format, if you're more interested, on YouTube, where you can do like a little bit more of a deeper dive. And, if you're interested, if you're not, scroll up and look at the dancing monkey and the tutu. But it's, I think it'll be fun because that's how I discover things. It comes across my social media, and then on Saturdays and Sundays while I'm painting, I'll dive deeper and see what it's all about. So follow me if you're interested down the rabbit hole for my creative process and see how I build my work. So for probably the last 10 years, I've been doing all my work on Belgian linen, and there's a reason for the linen. It's not just this random choice that I made. When I studied in Florence, one of the things that you learn straight out the gate is that you always tone your ground to a mid-tone, because what you can do is you can put your highlights and your shadows, and you can capture an image really, really quickly. So, even when I was working on canvas before, I would stain it and modify it so it wasn't just like a clean white canvas. So on the linen, what I love about it is I love that organic flax color, and I love the tooth of the linen. I love being able to see that tooth. And so when I stretch my canvases, so I build all my own canvases because I build them to the scale of the image that I'm creating, and then I do I just put a clear gesso. So what the clear gesso does is it protects the linen so the oil paint doesn't eventually rot it, and of course it tightens it and does all that. But what I love about it is that it creates this complete matte experience that you can paint on. And then since I paint, I'm very controlled with the amount of paint that I put on the canvas. It's very specific of each brush stroke. So the mid-tone of the image, either it's a portrait or a safari or whatever, is actually the raw linen behind. So if you think of the work more like Japanese calligraphy or watercolor, each brush stroke that goes down is very controlled. The balance of that is that it has to be controlled, but I want to do this big impasto brush stroke. So there's a lot of dance with the canvas when I'm working. I don't like to sit and work. I like to stand. I like to get up close and get back. I think John Singer Sargent was kind of famous for that, for the sword fight that he would do with his paintings. And then I take a note out of Da Vinci's notebooks, where you step away from the work, you develop a little bit of it, and then step away from it, go get a cup of coffee, take the dog for a walk, whatever, then come back to it with this fresh perspective, this fresh POV, so your lens doesn't get too tight in one space, because you can overdevelop something if it does. Even when I'm in my creative process, I'll start with the eye, and then once I get that perfect brush stroke in the eye, I'll jump down to, let's say, a hand or the collarbone or whatever. I'll constantly ping pong around the work, and then eventually it all raises up to the same level of completion. But I think that's really for my process, very important because it allows the painting to develop organically, and there's an evolution to it that allows me to see it rather than like overdeveloping like one thing and then you have to raise the rest of the painting to that spot. And there's points where I will overdevelop a painting, and once it becomes overdeveloped, then it kind of just gets ripped off the stretcher bars and a new canvas or a new linen is put on. So there's a specific reason for the linen. There's a quietness to it, and there's an organic, natural element to it that I love. So about a year and a half ago, I started using gold leaf on my work. I started creating these like gold leaf medallions around the back of the subject matter, whatever I'm painting. And one of the inspirations for that is like I've always had this fascination with Byzantine iconography. Like I love the fact that these saints were not to be from this world. They were supposed to be unworldly, and they were supposed to be like not of the natural world. And that's why they're completely surrounded by gold. And I love there's something that it just strikes a chord in me, and it doesn't matter if it's like a Byzantine piece or the mosaics in the back of the Sacré-Cœur, it stops me. So when I got the idea of like doing these medallions around the back, it was based on Byzantine iconography, but then it kind of turned left because when you put them around the animals, suddenly it becomes like a sacred moon or a setting sun. And around the figurative pieces, around the portraits, then suddenly it becomes a little bit more sacred, and this holiness, this quietness takes over. And then the wonderful thing that was a total surprise of once they went up is the juxtaposition between the gold leaf and the linen. So, the linen reacts kind of like velvet where light dies into it. And the 24 karat obviously picks up all light. So as the light travels through the space during the day, you can see the shift. And at night, when the lights are low, the lamps are on, the candles are lit, then it starts to move. And that little, that like visual animation, I wasn't expecting. And it became like a really kind of beautiful moment. So I'm totally, deep into the 24 karat gold. Plus it's kind of fancy to say, hey, 24 karat gold. But it's, I love it. I love it. I love everything. I love everything about it, and interested in seeing like where it goes in the future. I want to talk for a little bit about inspiration and what inspiration comes from and where my inspiration comes from. Inspiration comes from the world around us, obviously, and at the age that it's supposed to show up. So, when I was a kid, and to this day, like my heroes, my creative heroes are Michelangelo, Da Vinci, John Singer Sargent. These are masters in my eyes of the human form. They create expression and movement and beauty for me like no other artist has. And when I was a young boy, I'll keep this short and brief. When I was a young boy and I was 5 years old, I had something that they don't even have anymore. It's called rheumatic fever. And rheumatic fever eats holes in your heart. And they had to keep me in kind of like the boy in the plastic bubble. They had to keep me very, very quiet. But I was a spaz. So, if I were born today, they'd probably give me Ritalin or something. And I had to be like really still for like 6 months. And my grandmother, who is also an artist, she realized that if you gave me any kind of marking instrument, I would just like go into my own world. So when I came out of that, you know, she's just like, this one's mine. And she wanted me to like explore all the creativity that I could possibly explore. And she was like taking me to drawing classes, you know, giving me coloring books. You know, she really told me who I was going to be at a very young age. But through that young age, you know, back in the day, because I'm a grandpa, back in the day, you know, we had World Book Encyclopedia, you know, and, you know, that they weighed like 900 pounds and they, you know, took up an entire shelf. But A for Art was always in my room. And I would sit and just pour, and we're talking like 7, pour through, you know, Madame X and, you know, Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man and Michelangelo's David. And I would just study these beautiful forms and these beautiful moments of humanity and form and figure. And to me, it was magic. And I knew that that's what I wanted to do. That's 100% what I wanted my life to be. I wanted to capture moments of beauty. And the older that I got, you know, the more I developed it. When it came time for me to like choose a school, I wanted to go to Florence because, you know, I wanted to go to the birth of the Renaissance. It was very important to like learn how this was done, you know, during the Renaissance, the formula to the chemistry of art. So like when we had to do our gesso, we had to build it out of titanium dioxide, rabbit skin glue, and marble dust. And then do it in a double boiler, and like I loved that. But these you know, celestial mentors that I had when I was a kid, they're the ones that opened my eyes when there was really no other possibility. You know, they showed me a world that I would have never seen as a kid. And, you know, like I don't have children, so this is my legacy. This is what I'll leave behind. Yeah. You know, hopefully one day when I'm long dead, I'll inspire a young kid somewhere to create a life that is based on creativity and making art, because it's the best. So the equine series that I do is it's based on a memory. You know, I was raised in the Ohio-Pennsylvania border, and we were raised next to a horse farm. So when it started warming up, you know, after winter, I would, you know, climb through the fence with my newsprint and, you know, my charcoals. And there were these huge boulders that were in the landscaping, in the hills. And I would, you know, find a boulder and sit on it because it was warm. And I'd like sit on the warm rock, and I would practice drawing, you know, because I was young, and that's what you do. And always, you know, when you're sitting there, horses are like dogs. They're curious, they're happy. So they would like, I'd always hear them like coming up behind me, and then eventually, you know, you would get the, you know, nose to the back of the head. And then I realized that if like I bring like celery or carrots or any kind of vegetable, then they're like really happy. So, you know, they were always a part of that little kind of moment that I had when I was a kid. And then once I got older, and we're talking like a lot older, like I was 40 when I had this very vivid dream, and it was a dream, like a snapshot of that memory, but the snapshot was my perspective when I was like 10 years old. So of course, the horse head is like massive, and you're kind of just seeing your reflection of yourself in the eye of the horse. And it was very intimate, and it's almost like a Sofia Coppola moment with like a lens flare, very dreamy. And I woke up and stretched some canvas and just immediately did it. And the image that came out was this really large scale, like horse head that was very, very intimate and very close. I go out to Wellington quite a bit, and I just hang out with the horses. And even if it's a commission, because a lot of times I'll do portraits of people's like dressage horses or hunter jumpers or whatever it is, and you really have to have some kind of like intimacy. You have to have like a moment with a horse. Horse is very much, to me, like a dog. There's an intimacy, there's a friendliness, there's an exploration, there's a scratch and a nuzzle, and it's like there's a comfortability that you both have to like respect each other. So I spend time with the horses, and then take the photographs. And like when I photograph, I take literally a couple thousand. Like I just shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot until the memory card is out, and then I'll come home, download them all, and edit through those, curate the best, and then kind of like dive into that like what's that moment, like what's that cropping, what's that place where the ears are up, the eyes are bright, and they're looking at you. What's that, how's that sunlight hitting the lashes? I usually shoot late in the afternoon so the light is low and lean and it rakes across the face. And then from that I have my image. I transfer the image onto canvas. I scale out the body, the scale of the canvas, and depending on if it's a commission or if it's for my gallery. And then I start like developing the piece. And each piece that I do, and it doesn't matter if it is an equine series or if it's a safari series, or even if it's the portrait or the form, I always start with the eye. For some reason, if I know that the eye is there, then I know the painting is there. So come with me if you want to see a little bit more about the series and how I built it. There's places, and I truly, truly believe this. There's places that once you put your foot on the tarmac, it feels like home. Firenze is one of those places for me. Santa Fe is one of those places for me. And when I put my foot on the earth in Africa, I knew absolutely that everything comes from here. Like, this is why it's the dark continent. It is the oldest. It is the most beautiful and majestic. And it struck me, and it struck me powerfully. So when it came time to, do the safari, I hung out with my friends for like 2 or 3 days. They were wonderful hosts, and we had a lot of campaign brunches, and it was really amazing. And then off to a retreat that I went to. And that's where the safari truly began. That's when the interaction between getting very close to the elephants and the zebras and just sitting quietly watching them. You could just consume an entire day just watching the giraffes and the elephants graze, and watching the pups play. And, like baby elephants don't even look like they're from this planet. It's bizarre. And their trunks are constantly like swinging and, playing and exploring. And it's joyful. And, capturing all of that, that majesty, that intimacy, that natural, unaffected life was something that became very powerful for me, and something that I really, really wanted to do. So, I did a lot of sketches. Whenever I travel, I do a lot of sketches in my notebook, and I write a lot. Like every morning, afternoon, that's how I have my aperitivo hour. That's how I have my coffee in the morning, and then, of course, obviously, tons and tons of photographs. So when I get back from safari, I get back to the States, and immediately started working on the collection, and I will do a series up into a point, and then I'll take a break, and I'll kind of like reboot myself and readjust, set it down, and then pick it up a few months later. So when I got back to the States, I started on the safari collection, and the way that I wanted to do it, I wanted to start with that huge bull, bull elephant that I've been wanting to do for years, and really enjoyed that, and creating that, and then doing it on the canvas, or on the linen rather, and like exploring all the possibility and the scale of it. And then moved on to giraffes and the collection of zebras. So one of the things that I found very interesting is, zebras stand back to back, or face to face, so like face ass to face. So they're always, like front to front. And then there's always birds on their backs, right? And of course, that's their camouflage. That's how they, don't get attacked. But, as an artist point of view, like I didn't want to do like just a stock zebra. I wanted to do these like intimate moments where they're, where they're grazing, where the birds are on their back, where they're interacting with each other, and then break those up into components. So, basically you can do like an individual painting, you can do a diptych, you can do a triptych. I mean, you could literally just keep on building these and fill a wall if you wanted to and become like a mural. But it was all of those separate little moments that I really wanted to explore. And then once I went down the route of doing the gold leaf medallions behind them, again, it became like a sacred moon or a setting sun. So I don't think that, the safari series is done. I have thousands of images, and it's definitely not my last time to go to Africa. I want to keep on exploring different regions and, different humanities and different experiences.